The government is proposing to make changes to early childhood education. That is being welcomed by local academics, including Dr Alex Gunn of the University of Otago's College of Education. And she's here to explain why the changes will bring benefits. Good evening.
Kia ora.
What are the main changes that are being proposed?
Well, there's three sets of recommendations in this report, Rebecca. One of them deals with teacher professional development and learning in early childhood education. It's asking teachers to form communities of learning and professional development. There's a second suite of recommendations around how children start school, and they're possibly the most exciting moves signalled in this report. And then there are other recommendations about things like scholarships for fluent Te Reo Māori speakers who want to teach, or people who are fluent in Pasifika languages.
Now, how will these changes help children?
Well, if I can talk about this entry to school recommendations, as I said, I think they're the most exciting. One of the report's recommendations is that schools might like to start reception classes or transition to school classes. Now, as we know now, children come to school usually on their 5th birthday, and they're in year 0, and after a period of time they'll move into year 1. But we're wanting to extend the amount of time that children spend in reception before they move into that first formal year of schooling. And so this would allow teachers to work on a much more flexible transition plan for children. It would help teachers enculturate children into schooling, get them more familiar with the social and cultural aspects of schooling before they're subjected to some of that formal teaching at year 1 of the curriculum.
What changes will early childhood teachers have to encounter?
Well, some of the exciting changes for them are around the professional learning and development communities. So right now it's often difficult for early childhood teachers to be able to work together closely over long periods of time on areas of professional development because there's not the infrastructure there to support that. And so that element of the recommendations is very exciting because it would allow teachers to plan with their communities for the kinds of development work they want to do. I think also early childhood teachers would become more recognised by their schooling counterparts for the strength and expertise they have in young children's education. And because it's asking teachers in both of those sectors to work together, I think early childhood teachers would recognise the value in early years schooling and vice versa as well.
Will the changes be difficult or costly to implement?
Well, there certainly will be costs involved, that's for sure, and right now the government's remit around funding for professional development in early childhood is quite narrow. So they're going to have to reappropriate that fund and certainly top it up quite a lot, I'd suggest. But in terms of the complexity of implementing, the report has asked schools to consider on their own terms with their communities whether they would like to consider the reception class idea, and so it might be quite manageable in terms of the local, on the ground work that's necessary.
Is this a groundbreaking move from the government?
I really think it is. It'll go a long way to breaking down those divisions between early years schooling and early childhood education. It certainly puts the focus back on children and families much more rather than the institution, and I think that's a really good move.
When are we likely to see any changes if they're adopted?
Yes, so that's the $1,000,000 question. Of course, this is a set of recommendations in a report, and so the government would need to consider how it was able to fund those recommendations over time. Thankfully, the report's writers actually put a staged implementation plan across 3 years for the report's recommendations. So, that would allow government to pick up some things quite quickly, but actually take a more considered response to find the funding for the rest of them.
Dr Alex Gunn from the College of Education, thanks very much for your time.
Kia ora, thank you.